Governor Sarah Palin, how are you, my friend?
I am good. I got to apologize. I'm 2 minutes late, but it's legit because here I was just Googling you and some comments that you just made on Breitbart today and yesterday, and I'm reading it going, oh, my gosh.
Yes.
Levin, you are you're ripping and roaring and you're saying the right things that all the world needs to hear. Thank you for being so strong on Obama's idiotic statements lately.
Well, thank you. And you and your husband and your family, you know how much I admire you, and I appreciate it. And by the way, your book, it's a fabulous book. It's totally different than anybody would anticipate. You know, people expect people to write these political books all the time. It's called Sweet Freedom, a Devotional. Tell us about this book.
Well, it is a unique devotional because it's based on the Old and New Testament and lessons and verses and parables in the Bible that were written thousands of years ago, but Mark, they're so applicable to absolutely everything that we're facing today. It's like some people would say, oh, how ironic. I say, well, no, it's probably pretty darn providential from all those years ago. I'm tackling issues in there because people perhaps would be confused and challenged about today, say, an issue like gun control. What would Jesus say about arming yourself and fighting for your right to bear arms? And back in the day, of course, the arms were swords. Well, I point people to Luke 22nd, where Jesus told his disciples, hey, you guys, we're going on a journey. You better pick up your swords. You better be armed. Let's go. And if you don't have a sword, go sell your cloak. Go sell your purse, whatever it takes. You better be armed. You better protect the innocent. Nobody's going to do it for you. So a devotional like that, Mark, it's like I'm telling people that Jesus, well, he was a proponent of open carry.
Mm-hmm. I love that. You're going to drive the liberals nuts, by the way, most of whom don't read the Bible, so it won't matter. Sarah Palin, let me ask you this about you and your family and so forth. Have you always been a person of faith, or did something happen in your life and it really pushed you in that direction, or what?
Always been a person of faith. My mom, way back when, remember in the 70s, there was kind of the Jesus movement going on, you know, where a lot of people really tuned into like Billy Graham crusades. And we were in the Catholic Church at the time, but Mom was seeking a little bit more than what she was finding in just four square walls of a church, and it really delved into Billy Graham's very simple message about, you know, putting your life in God's hands and see where it can go. So once my mom kind of converted in that area, she brought the rest of the family along. So since I was a little girl, it's always been the most important thing in my life. But obviously, through the years, when life happens and you get these life gut punches that just kind of drop you to your knees, and you realize, oh, of my own volition or strength or wisdom, I can't handle this thing or two that happens in life. But I think God can, and he says in the Bible where the answers are to be found, where, you know, we can rely on his answers. After, you know, one thing after another with circumstances in my life, I've just grown more and more reliant on faith, yes.
Mm-hmm. And it is a very good feeling, isn't it? It brings you peace.
Lets me sleep at night, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. People think that liberalism brings you peace. It brings you misery.
It does, because liberalism is all about, put your faith in the next great liberal politician or our policy or our big government expansion program. None of that stuff has ever worked. Man is so fallible, especially liberal men. They are so fallible, Mark, that it is nothing but disappointment and sorrow and false hope. And that's why there is so much misery in the world. And yet, you know, we get back to our foundation, and what was our country's foundation all about? It was all about our founders being so doggone smart that they wrote our charters of liberty and our Constitution, all of our, codifying all of our freedoms and what government's role is supposed to be in our life, which is so minimal. They did that all based on God-given freedoms and the ability of the individual to be able to make good decisions according to their own priorities. So when we get back to that, it's just common sense to me. But when we get back to that, it's the antithesis of what the liberals are preaching. But it certainly works.
You know, I found your book to be very, and you don't have to be Christian, you can be whatever. I found it to be very inspiring, very, you know, and I like the way you tie the Bible into events going on today, and very positive. And you also have near the end of the book, I'm doing this by memory because I don't have it in front of me. I left it outside the bunker on the first floor. But you also reflect on Christmas Eve. I mean, it's like it's almost a Norman Rockwell type thing. Does that make sense to you?
Well, it does. Some people, they say it in not such a nice way, that my life is kind of this, do-de-do-de-do, well, they're redneck, countryside, Wasilla, hockey mom, Norman Rockwell, Little House on the Prairie stuff. And I'm like, yeah, it kind of is, and it kind of works.
Except when you're gutting a moose. That's a whole other thing.
Gutting a moose or getting all fired up, reading the quotes that you gave just recently about what's going on with these refugees and how we're being falsely accused of being so intolerant and hard-hearted. Man, that just ticks me off, Mark.
I'm sick of it. I'm absolutely sick of it. And, there's not a country on the face of the earth that's as tolerant as we are. And I try to point out to people as a Jew that this is a country that was founded by Christians on a Judeo-Christian ethic. And that's why it's tolerant. That's why there's diversity. That's why people of all backgrounds and religions can practice here. And that's a fact. That's a historical fact. And people resist it.
It is a fact, but don't you think that, especially just as of late, as recent as the last couple of days, with Obama just spouting off the deception, his articulated deception, trying to make the rest of the world make them believe that we're not compassionate and that we're not tolerant and that we haven't been there to rescue others all across the globe for eons. For him to be spewing this stuff, don't you think that so underestimates the wisdom of the people in America, and that there are enough Americans getting sick and tired of it, just like you were suggesting?
Didn't you have a son who wore the uniform?
Yep, he just got back from Iraq again quite recently, yes. Okay,
you and your family have sacrificed, and you're prepared to sacrifice. I don't see this from Obama and his family. I see takers. I see people who make demands. I see people who don't respect American history. What kind of president goes to Turkey, which is becoming a fundamentalist Islamic state? What kind of man goes to Philippines, a great ally, and keeps trashing the American people and keeps trashing America's tolerance?
Let me ask you something even more specific. As he's up there at the podium saying, these bunch of wimpy GOP constitutional conservatives, they're scared of a couple of little 3-year-old orphans? They're not compatible. I'm thinking, he's talking about Syrian refugees. Where has he been the last couple of years when these Syrians have been bombed and they've been, segments of the population so persecuted, and, ISIS is running rampant all over, making the Middle East a tinderbox? Where has he been?
That's a great point. He hasn't come to their defense, has he?
No, not until they want to come over here and walk through our porous borders, and then we're made to feel guilty that we just want a secure border and we want a vetting process that's going to keep our nation safe, which is his first priority. It should be.
Governor Palin, he has created more orphans and widows by his foreign policy, by his defense policy, such as they are, by withdrawing the way that he withdrew. Why don't we talk about the first instance here, how all these people came to be in the situation that they came to be in? Notice he never wants to talk about that. But I want to get back to this. Sweet Freedom, a devotional, Sarah Palin. It's like perfect timing. Thanksgiving book. This is the kind of book I can see where you sit down for Thanksgiving lunch or Thanksgiving dinner, and afterwards you crack it open and you actually read from it. Did you have that in mind?
Yeah, I did, and I had in mind, too, making sure that it's written in layman's terms. So, like you say, you don't have to be a Christian to be able to open it up and look to see, what is a practical solution to this challenge that I'm facing in my life today, or that our country is. Anybody can learn from it, I believe. Anybody can enjoy it. And, Mark, it was important for me weaving a narrative through the book that would never set myself up or my family up for being any kind of holier than thou. I know better than, I'm very, all the way through it, admitting of mistakes and fallibilities and all those things, so that other people hopefully will say, oh, okay, well, if she did that, messed that up, and yet she still got through the storm and could put one foot in front of the other today, well, then maybe I can too. And then we all together can get out there and change the world for the better.
By the way, when does Todd do that dog run? What is that called? I forget what that's called. I'm a Philadelphia guy. I don't know all these
Yeah,
things.
I know. Yeah, he does the Iron Dog, and that's in February, but it's really cold up there already, lots of snow, frozen lakes, so they're already out training for it. He's just in...
And he's going to do it again?
Heck yeah, this is his 22nd year.
Holy mackerel.
I know, he says he's getting old, too. And they run in two, they have partners, and I keep teasing him, going, man, your partners are getting younger and younger every year. Why is that? It's like,
but he's a tough dude. I've seen this guy. He's a tough guy, and that's good. Hey, Sarah, I want to wish you all my best, a happy Thanksgiving and Christmas. This is a marvelous book, Sweet Freedom, a devotional. Sarah Palin, I want to encourage everybody out there, get a copy of this. It's a positive, refreshing book. It also provides you with some very important and interesting connections from the Bible to current events. And I want to wish you all the best.
Thank you. You too. Stay vigilant, and thank you so much for all you're doing for this country, Mark.
And you too. God bless. And there goes a very, very kind lady. Always very kind to me. And she's had to put up with a whole bunch of crap from people who are less of a person than she is, trust me.